Day one of the draft, day two of the draft, that stuff's for casual fans. Day three, that's where we get into it, Rube.
Yeah.
That's the fun day, and it was fun today.
Love day three.
Day three, yeah, it's an all day event. Starts at noon, ends at like 7:30. So it's like an all day affair. Drafting players, Howie's trading like crazy. We're trying to keep up. Fans are watching the draft. They're following along. It's a fun day.
It is, and it's funny because I guess day one's more important. You're getting your first round pick. Day two, you're drafting in a second and third round, but there's more happens on day three.
You take more players.
You take more players. There's today there was more trades, so it might not have the. Look, who knows how many day three guys are going to make the roster or have a future here, but it's certainly a more frenetic day.
Yeah, and I think it separates the teams that draft really well,
right,
versus the rest of the pack.
Yeah, we could sit here and talk about their day three picks. Josh Sweat, day three pick. Big V. Jason Kelsey. They found some good players in day three.
Yeah, in that order. Of importance, right? Sweat, Big V, and Kelsey.
Well, I think I probably put Sweat ahead of Big V.
Yeah, I know. I was joking.
Big V did start in a Super Bowl, though. Super Bowl win. Sweat didn't.
Okay. This is Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan.
What's happening?
He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. I was just trying to make a joke.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It was a crazy day. It was there was a period on Saturday where I kind of felt like I got thrown in the deep end of a pool, and every time I was about to surface, Howie just kicked me down again with all these trades. Like, you're trying to keep up, and it's this number for this number and this number. But then that pick, they're not drafting. They're moving that one. It was wild.
And it's so much fun because, like, they'll get a pick and just trade it away like 5 minutes later. Like they had, I don't know, I think it was pick 132 they had for like 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Howie's so good at that part of it. And it was funny. You asked Howie because we're just trying to keep track of everything. And by the time we're figuring out one trade, there's another trade. And you asked him, like, how do you like keep track of everything and like what picks you have, what you want to do? And he's like, I don't know, just do it. It's just instinctive. I guess it's second nature to him. He's done it for so long. I'm sure they have a big board that's got their pick numbers and everything, but this is what he's best at. And he really does a terrific job of maximizing and expanding the value of the picks. And, he wanted a 3 for next year. He conjured up a 3 for next year because they didn't have a 3 in 2025. That stuff's important. You're not taking a player, but you're helping build a team.
Yeah, and they did that a bunch. They made 5 trades I have right here today.
Yeah.
And 4 of them were trade backs. The one was a trade up. They went up and got Jeremiah Trotter Jr., which we'll talk about all the picks, but they said it was a goal or Howie said it was a goal to accumulate some picks next year. They were a little light, and they liked next year's crop. So
they added 5 also for next year.
They added a third, a fourth, and a fifth.
Next year. Yeah, it's
significant, and it's Howie was asked this, but I think it's almost like general knowledge around league circles that the Eagles tend to value future picks more than other teams, and I think that's because of the stability of the franchise, specifically with the GM. Like, he's not worried about his job security. He can worry about the future, whereas other GMs and they fall in love with the player, right? Like, you hear that when it actually becomes a real player, teams love it so much more because they kind of associate a name or a face with that pick. Whereas, who they trade with, whoever GM so-and-so is thinking, that third round pick next year, we don't even know who that's going to be. The Eagles are able to divorce that part of it, and I think it helps them.
I gave up bad information. The Eagles did have a 3 next year. So they now have 2 3s. They have a 1, a 2, 2 3s, a 4, 2 5s. They don't have a 6 yet, and they have 2 7s. So, yeah. So they have right now, they're back up to 9 picks next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what they started with today is nowhere near the picks they finished with and where they drafted.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah. In fact, let's see how many of their picks, probably just Quinyon Mitchell is the only guy that was picked. Yeah. With a pick that originated with the Eagles, which is usually the other way around. That's usually the pick he trades.
Yeah.
Every other pick originated with another team. And how many of them? 1, 2, 3. Trevor Keegan. I'm sorry. That was a comp pick that they got that they kept.
172.
Yeah, 172.
And that's when they had back-to-back picks.
Yeah.
And they got rid of
They got rid of 171. But the Dylan McMahon pick was with 4 teams. The Jeremiah Trotter Jr. pick went from the Steelers to the Rams to the Panthers to the Colts to the Eagles.
I love that you specified that they didn't draft senior again.
I was there when he was drafted. I did the first interview with him.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. It was because I don't think we did conference calls with like 3rd round picks back then, but I remember talking to him.
Hard to do over a telegraph.
And it was like smoke signals. No, I remember talking to Trot outside the locker room in the hallway, in the concourse, in the lower level of the vet. And I remember he was talking about his work ethic and how much working as a kid like shaped the person he was. And I said, "What did you do?" And he was like, "I chopped wood." Like he really did. I mean, that's really what he did. It's not just some mythical. Like he's like, yeah, that'll toughen you up. You chop wood. My dad would give me $10 to, well, probably more like $2 to. Here's a cord. Chop it up. That was 26 years ago. Yeah. So, I don't know what the point is, but that pick was with 5 different teams. So yeah, a lot of movement today. A lot of trades.
All right, let me help you out here.
Thank you.
The Eagles made 6 picks, so 6 new Eagles after day 2. We're going to go through each of them in chronological order. So we will get to the Trot pick, but he was not the first one the Eagles made on Saturday. The first pick they made was in the 4th round, 127 overall, Will Shipley, the running back out of Clemson.
Yeah, fast guy. He was a state champ in the 55 in high school, senior year. So, yeah, I mean, he's a really versatile guy. He's a kick returner. He's a good receiver. He's a good runner. Great lacrosse player.
Yeah, grew up with like playing a bunch of different sports. So versatile, not just on the football field, but did a lot of other things. And some of the other Eagles too. Like Cooper DeJean was a multi-sport athlete.
Yeah, 4-sport in high school.
So
how can he be a 4-sport? I mean, can you do 2 sports the same season? I guess in some states.
I mean, he was in a town of like 1,000 people. They just let him do whatever they want. I guess.
Probably true.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to Will Shipley, 5'11", 205.
Yeah, well built. And the versatility is key there. I think that he does have like 3-down potential. Obviously, he's coming into a situation where you have Saquon Barkley, you still have Kenny Gainwell, who's been a nice piece of the puzzle, and you'd anticipate it's not going to be as much of a rotation as we've seen in recent years because you just paid a running back $37 million over 3 years. So Saquon's going to be the guy, but I think Will Shipley can help them a little bit. I think he can help them in the return game. They've added a few players in this draft that have return ability. So especially with the new kickoff rules, fascinated to see which of those guys end up being put back there. Yeah,
definitely. Shipley, 3 years of Clemson, had 3 really solid years. He averaged over 5.0 each year, 739 yards as a freshman, almost 1,200 his second year. That was his best season. Caught 38 balls and then over 800 yards last year. So the production was consistent and steady. You like to receive. There's not a lot of. They don't throw to the backs all that much. It doesn't seem like in most college programs. Some do, but it's good to see that he's done it already. And I mean, I think when you're looking at backs, I mean, you want a guy who can do multiple things, especially if he's not going to be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
You need that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. He wasn't my favorite of the day 3 running backs, but I think there are things to like about him. And the good news is he's healthy now. He had I believe you called it a fibular displacement.
Yeah, knee.
Fibular dislocation.
He hurt his knee.
Yeah, he hurt his knee. had a boo-boo, but he's all healthy now. And that's good news because it happened in the bowl game. So when an injury happens that late in the season, you get concerned about it. I found it fascinating that he grew up in North Carolina and he ended up like forging a relationship with Christian McCaffrey when he played for the Panthers. He actually, in the pre-draft process, worked out with Luke McCaffrey, who got drafted, Christian's brother, in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
So he's already been picking Christian McCaffrey's brain for years. And it sounds like he's going to have a pretty good start with Saquon Barkley. Barkley texted him.
How cool is that?
Like almost right after he got picked.
I thought that was really cool.
You know what? And Barkley, from what we heard about his time in New York, he was a leader. He had those leadership characteristics, but it's always a little tricky when you're coming to a new building and you're trying to figure out where you fit in. But I remember Brandon Graham saying this spring that he thinks Saquon can be at least a leader in the running back room, and he's already clearly doing that.
Yeah, I feel like somebody as accomplished as Saquon Barkley. He's a 2-time All-Pro. He played college football around here. He knows a lot of these guys. It's probably easier for him to come in. It's not like
a little cachet with him.
Yeah, it's not like Matt Hennessy coming in and all of a sudden, calling a team meeting. It's. I mean, everybody knows Saquon. They've been. He's been in this division since 2018. So yeah, I think it comes very naturally to him.
Yeah. It was good talking to Will Shipley. Seems like a smart kid. His brother, already in Philly, plays lacrosse at UPenn.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a fun little anecdote.
You said it. You said UPenn. Like the accent was on the U. That's kind of unusual. I haven't heard that before.
Okay. You said apricot today.
Yeah, I did.
It's apricot.
I know. So
Okay.
we're even.
All right. But the anecdote was cool because he's been coming to the city for a while. So he already has an affinity for Philadelphia before ever getting drafted here. So I think that's kind of neat.
Penn lacrosse team has a big Ivy League semifinal
on Friday
at either 6 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we should go.
I'd love to go. I like lacrosse.
Yeah, I love lacrosse.
His brother's a midi.
My college was like one of the top D3 programs in the country.
Okay.
Ohio Wesleyan. Yeah.
All right. Anything else on Will Shipley?
No.
Let's move on. We'll try to make sure we get through all these picks. So we don't want to have a 3-hour podcast.
Well, it wouldn't be the longest in Philadelphia today.
That's true. Ainias Smith in the 5th round.
Yeah.
5th, 152 overall. This is a guy I really did like during the pre-draft process. He was on my radar. And I wasn't so convinced they were going to draft him because they've had a type this offseason, and that type has been big.
Yeah.
He is not big.
But he's versatile.
He's versatile. He's well built too. It's not he's short, but it's not like he's rail thin. I think he is well built. So he is versatile. He's the kind of guy who's really good with the ball in his hands. Yeah. So a little gadgety, right? I think gadgety sometimes gets a negative connotation because it's like, if he's gadgety, that's all he is.
It means he doesn't do one thing really well.
Sure. And look, I think he has some growth just being a pure receiver, but
he was a running back. I mean, he was like actually a running back one year.
Yeah. And you can see that, like you watch him and you see some of that.
Yeah.
Get the ball in his hands. And if this was just the straight Nick Sirianni offense, I'd be pretty concerned about how they were going to integrate him. But I have some faith that, knowing what we know about Kellen Moore's offense, that there are going to be more opportunities to incorporate him the way they need to make the pick valuable.
Yeah, that's a good point. One stat I love about him, and he spent 5 years down there at A&M. He got hurt I guess it would have been the 22 season. I think he broke his leg or tore his ACL just early in the season and came back and played the next year. So he stayed on campus. He bet on himself a little bit, but the only player in SEC history with 2,000 receiving yards, 200 rushing yards, 250 rushing yards. 250 kick return yards and 250 punt return yards.
Okay.
So, yeah, he does a little bit of everything. He had over 400 rushing yards in college. Had better numbers as a punt returner, a couple touchdowns, averaged over 10 yards a punt return. He did that a lot. Interesting player, and versatility, whatever we've heard both of them this weekend, is going to be important to Kellen Moore, and this kid has it.
Yeah, of the two receivers, much higher on Ainias Smith. I'll plant my flag there. We'll get into Johnny Wilson in a little bit, but I like the Ainias pick, and he's obviously with that frame, he's going to be a slot. He's going to be a slot receiver.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
I think he does have the ability to play outside here and there, and you want a little bit of that because there's value in AJ and Devontae inside at times. But I don't know. I'm. What's your gut tell you? Can he come in and win the third receiver job?
Ian, I don't see why not. I might even put him in the lead right now.
There's a 5th round pick, so we should probably pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, and I went through this. I mean, it's so rare for a 5th or later at that position to do anything. Quez is like one of the best ones, and he turned into a big disappointment. He had the one good year. Calvin Williams was drafted in 90? So that's 30 years ago. Riley Cooper. I mean, those are really, that's it, so, but look, I'm not sold on Paris Campbell or Devontae Parker. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's wide open. I'd certainly put him in the mix.
Yeah. And we know Nick's deference to veterans. So I think they'll probably give those older guys a chance and they'll probably trust them more.
Yeah.
At least initially.
Yeah.
But I think there's some upside with Ainias Smith.
Yeah. He'll be fun camp guy.
All right, let's get to the pick that got everyone really excited. And they traded up to make this pick. They had moved back off of it, and then they ended up moving up with 164, which was the 5th round pick, and 201 in the 6th round. They get up to 155 overall in the 5th round. Take Jeremiah Trotter Jr. It's a cool story, and I know Howie said they didn't do it for the story. I believe that to a certain extent, but the story's fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, seems like a great kid, South Jersey kid. Where would he have gone to public school if he didn't go to the prep? I guess Rancocas Valley, right?
RV, I believe.
Yeah. It's not, I know he's played it down and I give him credit. Like we talked to him and he was very straightforward. He wasn't like, I really liked his approach. He wasn't making a big deal about his dad. He's like, I'm here to play football. I'm not here to, this is paraphrasing, but he made it clear that it's nice and his dad helped him a lot and everything, but he's here to, carve his own path. And I like that. He's small. He's really small.
He's small, 228 pounds, modern NFL and all that. There are some issues when you're a smaller player, and he's not the only guy dealing with those issues.
Yeah.
Eagles already have a linebacker who seems to be dealing with those issues.
Yeah. Can you play Nakobe and Trot?
Probably you could, but
you could. But the flip side of that, he's a real playmaker.
Yes. And he plays, it's such a cliche, but he does play bigger than his frame.
He did in the ACC.
Sure.
And we'll see.
That's all I have to go on.
Yeah, I understand that, but and he talked about how like he's such a different player than his dad, as far as like he's not going to be taking on offensive tackles. He's a guy who's going to run around an open field and make plays. The last 2 years at Clemson, he had 177 tackles, 29 and a half tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 13 sacks, a couple pick sixes, 3 forced fumbles. He's around the ball and he's an intriguing guy. I know he said the pressure doesn't affect him, but that name, makes it's a lot, and expectations might be a little unreasonable, and fans are really excited. He's not his dad, and he might have a really nice career. But I just would urge fans to like be patient with him. He's a 5th round pick. I think he has a chance to really be a player,
and I think that helps, by the way, being a 5th
probably.
Instead of like if he was a 3rd round pick.
Yeah. Jalen Rager's dad was a former Eagle, a little bit different. Monte wasn't a legend like Trot. Same with Najee Good and his dad, John Good, tight end under Vermeil, I think. But anyway, it is a great story. I think, you can just tell he wants the story to be him as a player, not him as Trott's son.
Yeah, but
as proud as he is.
Yeah, but I do appreciate like that he's not shying away from it either.
Yeah.
He does the Axeman celebration.
Yeah.
He wants to wear.
He wants 54. Yeah.
Which that is just objectively awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
There's a bunch of people in the area like rooting through their closets right now trying to find their jerseys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, just have to put a JR at the end of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, or not. We get it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's the same way with Rager jerseys. People pulled out their old Monte Rager jerseys.
A little different, like you said.
Yeah, it's an intriguing pick. Like, even if his name was, Johnny Candle, like he'd be an intriguing player in the 5th round, certainly.
Yeah. What do you think about the position in general?
Yeah, I feel like they haven't done enough.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And it was a spot where we thought, you're looking at when they had 2 second-round picks, and you're thinking, maybe linebacker finally? Nah.
Yeah.
Maybe Junior Colts? Nah. Maybe Edgerrin Cooper? Nah.
Yeah.
Peyton Wilson? Nah.
Yeah. I was intrigued by him. I don't know what Devin White's going to be able to give him.
And because of where they drafted Trotter, like, you're still, I think, looking at Devin White and the Kobe Dean.
I would think so. Now, look, if the kid comes in and plays lights out in camp, and the Kobe doesn't, that's the job that, it's, because like you can't have 2 not only undersized, but, very undersized linebackers out there. But I don't think it's that far-fetched to think he might be able to outplay Nakobe, and maybe Nakobe gets hurt. I don't know, but
sure,
there's not a lot of depth there, not a lot of options.
They brought in, Oren Burks, we haven't talked about
as
maybe an option.
Yeah,
Ben Van Sumeren in year 2. The options aren't great.
I feel like, Ben Van Sumeren might be a better alternative, but I'm excited to see him. And and great. I would tell everyone, and John Clark did a podcast with both Trots.
Yeah. He's already talked to them both since they got drafted.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He just flew back from Detroit.
He did.
Like, we think we're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarky's still over there. He was like obsessed with this squirrel. He's like right outside the meeting. He's like, how many nuts do you think a squirrel can eat in a row? Because he's just been going nonstop for like 20 minutes.
On the next Takeoff with John Clark, he's going to get to the bottom of that.
Squirrel trivia. But yeah,
exclusive with that squirrel.
It was a terrific podcast. He really got both those guys to open up. And I think actually this is what we were watching. I don't know if that's probably too much glare there, but there's Mr.
For the listeners, he is showing a photo of a squirrel.
Oh, there's a reflection of the ring light. Yeah, now I got the squirrel in the ring light.
Okay.
All right. Anyway.
All right. Let's move on to.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next pick. In the 5th round, still Trevor Keegan, offensive guard from Michigan. We were waiting for them to take an offensive lineman.
I didn't think it would be this late.
172, and neither did Howie admit it after the draft. But there's a lot to like about Trevor Keegan.
Yeah, and you start with the fact that anybody on that team in Michigan, that he's a part of a winning organization. He was a captain on the national championship team. He's got a lot of experience, he's an interesting guy. And again, we just ran into Stout in the auditorium on picture day. We should tell that story at the end of the podcast. Let's do that. Can we do that? Yeah. Is that kosher? Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was off the record photo op. But you know what? I trust Stout more than anybody in the world with late round O linemen. And, you look at, we mentioned Big V, obviously Kelsey. you know, what he did with, I mean, Sua was undrafted and became a functional, okay starter. Jordan Mailata, obviously, I'm forgetting somebody. I think he loves those guys, maybe even more than the first round picks. He loves raw talents. And I mean, look, the kid is, was he a 3-year starter, I believe?
Yeah.
The last 2 years, Michigan's offensive line, I thought this was pretty cool. And I asked him about this. I didn't even know. You ever heard of the Joe Moore Award? It goes to the
best overall
best
line.
overall O-line in the country. And Michigan won it twice in 21 and 22, actually. They didn't win it the year they won the national championship. But, yeah, I mean, he's a you look at him, he just looks like an interior lineman. He's a big, tough guy, and that, you know, the proverbial playing till the whistle ends and then a couple of seconds later.
Yeah, he's a little mean streak
Yeah.
to him. You like that. Big guy.
He'll be hearing from Runyon, I'm sure.
Probably. Powerful,
Yeah.
certainly. And so the one question I did have about him, like, overwhelmingly played left guard only.
Yeah.
But he did mention that he's practiced at right guard. He's in the pre-draft process. He's been working on that side because he ain't gonna play left guard here.
Right.
That's Landon Dickerson's spot. The idea is to have, you know, maybe he competes for the right guard spot, and maybe that's far-fetched because he's a 5th-round pick. But I think he has a pretty decent pedigree for a 5th-round pick.
Yeah. And 39 starts at college. They're all at left guard. 6'5", 310, 315. I think that right guard position is up for grabs.
I do too. I think they're going to give Tyler Steen the first crack at it.
Yeah.
Heck, they put his locker there for a reason. So it's Tyler Steen, but they brought in Matt Hennessy.
Yeah.
Now they draft a couple of interior offensive linemen late. And, you know, if not, he's going to be a versatile backup.
Yeah, and that's something they needed. They needed that depth. And I think, I'm getting a little high. I think McMahon's really only a center.
I think he played guard. He's played guard.
Yeah, I think one game maybe. But we'll get to him. But, I mean, you lose Driscoll, Sua, and Kelsey. So you lose 3. I mean, so they signed Hennessy. They needed some depth in the interior line. We've talked about that. And so they got some. And, you know, I think with a 5th round with Stoutland, a 5 is kind of the equivalent of a 4. You know, you just give him an extra round just because you have Stout.
All right. Next pick. We're in the 6th round now, 185 overall. Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Candle.
Giant wide receiver from Florida State. 6'6", 230. I mean,
go to the dentist.
He's a monster.
Yeah. 6'7". He was asked, or Howie was asked if he would think about moving him to tight end. He said no. He's a wide receiver, and you know the reasons you might move a tall guy to tight end. He knows the whole route tree. He can run those routes, and he's fluid. What's up?
You just pronounced the same word differently in the same sentence.
What word?
You said he knows the whole route tree. He can run all the routes.
Well, if it goes along with tree, it just, I don't know, whatever. Just cares. Apricot. He started at Arizona State. It didn't do much.
Didn't do anything, really.
Didn't do anything. 2 years at FSU. Had a better year 2 years ago than he did this year. Production was down. Averaged 21 yards catch 2 years ago. Yeah,
and he has kind of a knack for the spectacular catches, which you'd imagine for a guy like that.
Yeah.
Good play strength. I think kind of the knock on him is sometimes he won't make the easy catch, right? Like he has some drops under his name, and but like the highlights are fun to watch. Like you watch those highlights and you'd be blown away.
Yeah, his production was down. Yeah, I mean that's always the dangers. You see all these spectacular plays, but you know the production was down last year. 41 for 617. Keon Coleman had better production. Where did he end up going? I don't know. But
it was a day 2 pick.
You know, he's and I'm sure they'll have Harold Carmichael out there working with him. You know, he's like who was the tall guy, the tall receiver they had? few years ago. They had Harold out there because
Hakeem
nobody's
Butler,
Moma. Hakeem Butler. That's the second time his name's come up today. That's too many. But look, he's intriguing.
They're calling Doug Peterson to get that fade drawn up.
It was the worst play in Eagles history.
Ronnie Brown on line one.
That was the only snap he ever played in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Got a target.
He got a target. It was just it was. We should do a show on just the 10 worst plays in Eagles history.
Okay, let's do that in May, not during the draft. Yeah.
No, I wasn't saying now. I was just saying something we should do. But yeah, he's an intriguing guy, and he's not just tall. He's got some ability.
He does. Now, look, he was a 6th-round pick for a reason. Yeah. There are traits to like. Sometimes with these big-bodied receivers, I'm a little skeptical because you can play bully ball in college and then you get to the league and it's not going to be that easy.
Right.
And I think there are some natural questions about like, can this guy separate? If he can't separate and he's just making all these contested catches in college, a lot of times that doesn't translate.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
And I understand that the question's about tight end because I mean,
sure.
It's a logical question. I don't think it's anything to be like offended by.
Oh, absolutely.
And there were teams reportedly in this pre-draft process that talked to him about tight end.
Is that right?
Yeah. The Eagles like him at receiver. You know, they talked about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe keep him around the practice squad and see what you have. But he's a long shot.
Yeah, I think so. But you know what he's not a long shot for? To be the training camp darling of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think he's going to make some highlight reel type catches, and all it's going to take is 1 or 2. It's going to get a little snowball rolling. A lot of Johnny fans out there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. I was going to say something. I totally forgot what it was. Something about training camp. Oh, I know your rookie diary thing, your rookie camp. He might be a good candidate.
Oh, yeah, he might be.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him first and see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to kind of vet those candidates first.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I'll tell you what, Jalix might be really good.
Yeah.
I know you like a later pick.
3rd-round pick. I don't know. But he might be fun just because he's so raw.
Yeah.
I might make an exception for him this year.
Yeah, I think he'd be fun.
Yeah.
Fun talker.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's get to the final pick of this draft. 6th round, 190 overall, Dylan McMahon, offensive line from North Carolina State.
And as I said, he started 23 games at guard and the rest at center in college at NC State.
Yeah. He did say center is his favorite position, but he's played both.
Yeah, he has played both.
Obviously, a little undersized to be a guard in the NFL.
Yeah, 6'3", 295.
I think he was just around 300 at the combine.
He was down in Raleigh for 5 years. And Howie made the point that like next year you're not going to have these guys, these 5-year guys. You're going to have younger draft class because of COVID. That'll be in the past, but the guys who stayed an extra year because of COVID. But yeah, I mean he's not real strong. He's got to be stronger and bigger.
Bigger, but like the athletic profile.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, what we got? The 3-cone, 7.26, short shuttle 4.33. Those are elite numbers.
Yeah. Vertical jump was like 33. Did you say that?
33 vert, 9.7 broad.
9.7
but
broad.
like the short shuttle and 3-cone, like for an interior offensive lineman, really key.
Yeah, this is a guy they drafted on traits and get him to Stoutland U and see what you have. Yeah.
6th-round center, really athletic.
I think he was picked one pick. What pick was Kelsey?
Kelsey was 191.
And what pick was this kid?
190.
There you go. So he's better. He's picked earlier than Kelsey.
Yeah, it was funny. He was, someone asked him about Kelsey and framed it that way. Like, they once drafted a center in the 6th round. But he said he has watched a lot of Kelsey because Jason Kelsey became a prototype for a lot of these undersized centers.
Yeah.
And I guess Jeff Saturday before him, but
Yeah.
Kelsey's maybe one of the best centers of all time. So it's kind of been, Cam Jorgens has talked about it. I think a guy like Tyler Linderbaum has talked about it.
Yeah.
All these undersized centers that have entered the league have looked at Kelsey and seen his success and learned that there's a different way to play the position.
They've also learned how to like chug beer from him, from watching reps of him.
Sure.
Yeah.
How about Trevor Keegan wearing a Deshaun Jackson jersey?
That was really interesting. He said he had it since elementary school.
Yeah.
He was asked
I'm not fitting in my clothes from elementary school.
Yeah. I was really curious, like why he had it at that age. Like he didn't grow up here.
Yeah. I already burned a question on the jersey.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to ask him because I think I was writing about a trade at that point. But
I had to ask him, because he was mostly off frame. I could see the 10. I was like, that has to be a Deshaun jersey.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Are you wearing an Eagles? You're like, sorry, but are you wearing an Eagles jersey? Pretty cool.
I was like, I promise I have a real question coming.
Yeah.
But that was fun.
That was neat.
That's the draft.
Yeah.
9 players, really heavy offense on day 2 or on day 3 rather, after going defense to start this class.
And then only took one more defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
That was Trotter.
Yeah. So heavy offense on day 3. That's all the picks. We'll get into some other stuff, some trends from this draft, what we heard from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. We get a text. Howie and Nick are coming down. Get to the auditorium. So we get in there.
No, we were in the auditorium when we got the text. We were already down there.
Okay.
You're giving people bad information. You're lying. You're like, the whole essence of this podcast is that we're honest with people. And you're just telling a flat out falsehood. All right, go ahead. I'll shut up.
Yeah, that was definitely worth throwing a blockade in the story. So we get in there and there's no table where the guys normally sit. But the backdrop's there. We're going, what's going on here? They had Cooper DeJean in there a little bit earlier, so we figured, well, they moved the table to do like a photo op with him. That's probably the situation. No, it was like, you ever see a cartoon with a clown car and all the people just keep getting out of it?
Oh yeah,
that's what I felt like watching.
Yeah,
all these people flow in, and kind of a cool symbolic moment.
It was.
Howie, we've talked about this before, but on day 3 of the draft, he goes out of his way to thank everyone involved.
It just went into focus.
Okay.
After I held it up. I don't know. Anyway.
Just a reminder, some people are listening to this and they don't know that Rube held his phone up again to the camera to show all the people.
But all the people that are watching really appreciated the gesture.
Yes. Okay. But
yeah,
he goes out of his way to thank everyone who plays a role in the draft.
Yeah.
And he welcomed all of them on the stage.
How many people? There's like over 100 people.
It was a lot.
Yeah. But we saw most of the assistants. Yeah. It was it was a cool moment. And I think pre 2015, Howie doesn't do anything like that. But yeah, it that means so much to everyone. And he just thanked them, and it was brief, and said, I want to have a memento of what we've done. He said all these people have been in the building all weekend, and everybody, I mean, the chef was in there, the secretaries were in there, executive assistants. It was pretty cool. Even the PR department was in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they play a role in this.
Small one.
Jeez.
Shane didn't want to get in the picture. I pushed, said, get in there. You did more than anyone.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, people work on the draft year round. We talk about the process of it, for a few months of the year, but it's a year round thing. And a lot of those scouts, it's man, they do so much hard work that doesn't get noticed. And they're like working in obscurity for 12 months of the year. It's a tough gig.
Yeah. Yeah. And every year, Howie goes out of his way to express his appreciation, which has to mean the world to those guys.
Mm-hmm. All right, we had some big takeaways. I thought
Yeah.
it was an enlightening press conference.
It was good. Yeah.
With Howie. One of the few times I've seen him break focus from a press conference and start texting during a presser. They were trying to finalize their crop of undrafted free agents, and normally they're completely done by the time they get down there. I guess they were still tying up a few loose ends. Have you ever seen that from him?
I've never seen him text in a press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been important. Must have been, hey, can we go to this number for this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, and he said, Nick, just talk, which, yeah, that was cool. What was your biggest takeaway? Let's just start there.
Sure. I think there were a few. We talked a little bit about the trades, but I do find that fascinating, just the foresight with which they operate when they're making these trades. They wanted to add value next year. They realized they were a little light. So, once he was kind of like, I don't know, we just make the trades. I followed up and said, yeah, but are there some general thoughts and plans coming in? And one of their general thoughts and one of their goals was to add draft capital for next year. So it's fascinating to me that they did that, because that was not a one-step process. They first had to accumulate the picks this year to then flip them for picks next year. So it just kind of tells you the way they're playing this. It's like, some people play chess and they make every move on their own, but some people really kind of think ahead. And this is a team that thinks ahead. Doesn't mean they're always going to nail it, but I think you can appreciate the process.
Yeah, but I think it's even more than thinking ahead. It's like plotting ahead, like not plotting with D's, but plotting with T's. I mean, it's like planning for the future and including the future in all current decisions. And, how he's always, whenever he's asked about that kind of thing, he's always like, my biggest job is to win this year, to win now. But within that, he's able to, like getting a 3rd round pick for next year, that was a priority for him. He did it. And, yeah, I think we were walking through the parking lot. He said, I don't think a lot of teams think that way. And I think part of it is, I don't think a lot of GMs have the job security that Howie does. So if you're worried about your job, we got to win this year or I'm getting fired. I'm not going to be trading picks for picks in 2025 or a player for a pick in 2026. So it's next level stuff. It really is. And yeah, you still got hit on the players, but it gives you more opportunities to do that.
How about you?
How about me?
The big takeaway from Howie.
My biggest takeaway was, I think it was Bo Wolf asked him if he's surprised they didn't get out of the draft without an offensive lineman drafted before the 5th round. And he said, yeah. He said, it's just the way the board fell. We weren't going to reach for anyone. He said there were some runs on offensive linemen in spots where we didn't have picks. And, we're not going to reach for anyone. And, they eventually took a couple of interior guys late, but I was surprised they didn't take an O lineman. And it was interesting to hear him talk about it. And I think the follow-up question, which is a good one, is, what happens next? He's like, we're going to keep looking. I mean, they need some more depth there and some more talent and, maybe a backup tackle.
Yeah, that's, I'm surprised, especially they didn't end up with a tackle.
Yeah.
They added 2 interior depth pieces potentially, but you look at their backup tackles right now. You have Fred Johnson, but you lost Jack Driscoll. I mean, if Lane goes down, who's the right tackle?
Fred Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's been around. He's a huge dude.
Yeah.
He's a good singer. He has a nice singing voice. But
you feel good about that? not a singing voice,
No.
about him being the swing tackle.
I don't have a reason to feel good about it.
Yeah, and obviously
he had a really good camp last year and he made the team, but it's one thing to have a good training camp and another thing to replace Lane Johnson.
Mm-hmm. And I guess their evaluations differ than some other people's, like, because there were tackles taken that were in their range and they could have taken them. They clearly didn't think the value was there. They have to trust their board. I get that, but I think it's tough. We talked about all these offensive tackles in this class that had these special traits. And the more we talked about it in the pre-draft process, the more I was convinced they were going to take one.
Yeah.
And then you just had the run of them, and it ended up being, all right, well, Quinyon Mitchell's there. We got to do this. And then Cooper DeJean fall, and you got to do that. And you understand that because they're getting the value made sense. But because of that, you ended up without an offensive tackle.
Yeah. And I appreciate the process. I would rather stick to the board than reach for a tackle.
I get it. Yeah. That's why you have a board.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's going to be like, it's going to hurt you a little bit to not get a position you want. But it's in this case, I don't think it hurt because they got players they really like.
Sure. I think Howie mentioned each night of the draft, and we talked to him after each day was over. It's really the only time all year we talked to him this much, 3 days in a row. It just doesn't happen. It's great, and I wish we talked to him more. But I think each night he said he just emphasized the importance of never straying from the board. And I think even one night, I think it was yesterday, he said, Mr. Lurie wouldn't let us. He wouldn't let us do that, which is really interesting.
Someone's got to hold him accountable.
Yeah, and I think you just make mistakes when he said we won't change anyone's grade. Like, all right, let's just change his grade a little, then we'll take it. But they're true to their board, and you do all this work to put people in a certain order. Don't change it.
It's got to be tough.
It's got to be.
Like sometimes there's got to be a moment where you're going, gut feelings, like got to take you one way or the other, but it's probably wise to not be swayed by that.
Yeah. What do you got?
He was asked about Red Star players, which is a phrase we learned last year, and it's basically like a player that kind of exhibits the qualities they want in an Eagle, which is a little
amorphous.
Yeah, but I was going to say broad, but amorphous works.
Amorphous. It's not amorphous.
I know. I was joking. He said
You're joking about the pronunciation of the word. I can't even say now. Amorphous.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway. Yeah. What were you saying? Speak. Talk.
No, I won't. They said they took 5 Red Star players.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
5 of their 9 players were Red Star players?
Yeah.
I don't know. Buying it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe there are more this year.
Maybe.
And then Zach Berman was like, who were they? He's like, I'm not telling you that.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't.
It would probably set a bad precedent if ever you were like, who are the Red Star guys?
Yeah. But obviously it would be insulting to the guys who aren't that you drafted. But it was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting.
But it went further than that because Howie actually admitted or just said that this offseason they had a goal to take players who had that proverbial chip on their shoulder. And he said, because we have a chip on our shoulder now. Look, I don't know if that really should factor into it. I think you want a player with the right mindset who like is competitive and has that kind of mentality to prove something. I think that's good. I don't think that matters that you blew the season last year. That shouldn't matter. But right. I understand if that just enforced having that mindset, I think that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good thing to have whatever happened last year. All the guys we talked to, we haven't talked to everyone. Who did we talk to?
The 2 receivers.
The 2 receivers. All very, very serious guys. Yeah, there was, I think they all kind of fit into the kind of player. I mean, there are all, like a lot of captains, a lot of guys who spent a lot of time, 3-4 years, 5 years in a couple of cases in college.
Yeah, but you can see the chip on the shoulder with a lot of these guys.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Get to it. Then.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, obviously Quinyon.
Well, both corners, yeah.
Okay.
I think both corners expected to go higher.
Yeah, expected to go higher. Quinyon from small school. Cooper DeJean didn't get any love coming out of high school.
Jalix went to Houston Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting group that way.
Anything else
on that?
No.
Yeah, I asked Howie and Nick about the secondary because they've added a lot since the season ended. You signed CJ, you got Isaiah Rodgers cleared, you get him. You have two corners, two of the better corners in the draft. And then, at the beginning of last year, I mean, Keeley wasn't playing, Sidney wasn't playing, Eli Ricks wasn't playing. Now we don't know when Sidney's going to be back, but I think opening day last year, they only had one defensive back, 26 or under, who played significant snaps, and that was Reed. They could have 6 this year, and then Sidney, when he is cleared, will be 7. I mean, they've gotten younger, and I asked them about that, and they said, look, we knew that was a priority. We sat down when last year ended, like we got to get faster in that secondary, younger and faster. They had 3 30-year-old starters when the season began. Terrell Edmonds wasn't in his 30s. He's a younger guy. He's like 27 or 28, but he kind of played like he was 30. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Byard and Bradbury, Slay in his 30s and playing well. But it was clear they had to address that position, and they did, and pretty significantly. Yeah,
we got a chance to meet Cooper DeJean.
Yeah,
in person. He flew in early on Saturday morning. I can't imagine like what his life has been like the last 24 hours.
Sure.
And I think he was wearing it a little bit because you can tell he's like head spinning, but it was good to meet him in person.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys, he got off the stage and came over and just introduced himself to each media guy. Shook our hands. I had to ask him about Sean Considine, who he said was around the program a little bit. Eagles 4th round pick in, I don't know, sometime. But yeah, he's an impressive kid. And everything comes back to just like, I miss playing football. He was hurt, obviously, at the end of last year. He just misses the game. He loves the game. He's fun to talk to. He's got some serious intensity just talking to him.
He does. Yeah. And there were some like moments of levity, but then he was like flip a switch and he's back to talking football or talking about, some of the things he's overcome to get to where he is in his life and now career.
Yeah. Yeah. I still don't know exactly what he is and where he's going to fit in.
I thought about running up on Vic Fangio to get a few questions. Yeah. When I saw him come in for that photo.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. We still haven't talked to either the 2 new coordinators since they got here. We haven't been granted permission. But yeah, all the assistants were up there. The only one who came over and said hi was Stout.
No, Aaron Moorhead said hello.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Talking some baseball with Stout.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm not exactly sure where he fits in. It's going to be interesting to see where they line him up when things get going. But he has so many good qualities that I think they've said it. You just let's see where he fits in and play him. So I'm very curious about that.
Parents were with him.
Yeah.
Flew in from Iowa with him.
Did some photos.
Yeah.
You ever been to Iowa?
It's one of the states I haven't been to. Not many for me that I haven't been to.
There's 8 I've never been to.
I think I have 6 to go.
There's actually 8 that I haven't gone running in. So I've run at least 2 miles in 42 states.
Okay.
Which ones are you missing?
Oregon, which I'm going to cross off this summer. The Dakotas.
Oh, I got both Dakotas.
Okay. Iowa, Arkansas.
Okay.
That might be it.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm hurting in the Southwest. because I would, like when I was traveling with the Eagles, I would get wherever they were playing. I would get there early, fly out early, and then just drive. Like we flew to Minneapolis and drove due south to the Iowa border, ran a couple miles. And then what I did was I drove to the border of the Dakotas, which is far.
From where?
From Minneapolis.
Oh.
And I ran 2 miles. I ran basically along some railroad tracks that spanned both states. Like Oklahoma, Dallas, I drove up north to Oklahoma.
I did that too. I went to Chickasaw National Recreation.
Chickasaw Mud Puppies. I saw that band open for the Rave Ups at Dobbs, 1989. They're from Chickasaw. But what else? Like I don't have Hawaii and Alaska. I don't have Oregon like you. I don't have Nevada. I don't have New Mexico. I don't have Utah. I don't have Nebraska.
I don't have Nebraska. That's the other one I'm missing.
Okay. And I don't have New Jersey. I got to get over. I guess there's a bridge right there. I got to get over there.
All right. Do we have anything else?
I don't think so.
Take a look at this draft.
Well, I'm going to ask you one quick question.
Okay.
What was the biggest surprise to you?
In general, about their draft?
About their draft.
I think that it took so long to get offensive line.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. You look at it and that's not a knock on the players, because I think especially the first 2 picks are just exceptional value. I think the 3rd round pick is low floor, high ceiling.
Yeah.
After that, like the day 3 picks are day 3 picks.
Right.
Like, people are going to grade them. It's gonna take a while to figure out what these guys are. There are ones I'm higher on than others. I really like the Ainias Smith pick, but I know I'm also biased because I was in on him during the process.
Right.
It's tough to remove that from it.
What pick are you most excited to see in camp?
Jalix Hunt.
Really?
Yeah. It's because the other guys I've at least watched a little bit. I haven't seen any of Jalen. I wasn't watching any.
There is no tape of him.
Yeah, Houston Christian games. So
you didn't even see that big game against Tarleton.
Yeah. So no, I'm excited to see him, and I think we'll at least I want to see. I want to see the athleticism that drew them to him, and I think that'll pop if it's there. And I expect it to be there.
Yeah.
And I expect him to look raw.
Yeah, no doubt. I would say Ainias Smith. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
I get that. I mean, and honestly, Johnny Wilson's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's tough to say the interior offensive linemen we're all super stoked to see, but all these guys are gonna be fun.
And I want, like I just said, I want to see what they do with Cooper and where they think his skill set works the best. Obviously they have some specific thoughts about it. They said we'll bring him in and see, but they have some. You don't take a guy 40 if you don't have a pretty good idea already.
Yeah.
Fun few days.
They're wrapping up their undrafted class now. It's going to be a small undrafted class. How we talked about that.
We have a few names.
Yeah. We don't have to go through them. Let's wait to do that next week. We'll go through.
We do have a tracker on our site, or we will.
We will, yeah.
We will.
I haven't had time to do that. But
we will whenever Dave finally gets around to it.
Yeah. Been a little busy, but yeah, we'll get that up. And then next week we'll go through some of the undrafted guys. It's going to be a small class. They planned this ahead. They looked at this class and said, not going to be worth it. So they signed a bunch. You probably remember when they signed all these futures contract guys, and that was the reason.
Yeah. Howie did allude to an international guy that
they'll have an international exemption.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next week.
We'll see who it is.
All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast and you appreciate.
And thanks everybody. By the way, we did 3 pods the last 3 days. I just want to thank everyone for keeping with us and listening and watching.
Yeah. What's the best way you if you had to pick one way to thank us, what would you do?
Send us.
No. Don't send us anything. Please rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, boxes. Someone mute him. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button, subscribe there as well. That's it. This has been the 2024 draft. It was a lot of fun. We'll talk to you guys next week.